Go.
Going live now.
I need a thing.
All right. Go ahead. You're live.
We are live. Also, Neil's like, stop looking at the phone. Hello, everybody on YouTube Live. This is still August, man. August the 31st, 2023. We got Mr. Adam Cloninger over there. How are you, sir?
Absolutely fantastic.
And we got Neil, the man behind the curtains, who's no longer behind the curtains for the YouTube Live.
Yes, and every time I do this, I'm scrambling to write the comments, and you're like, over there we got, and I'm like trying to write, trying to switch it back over, and because we're high tech.
We are high tech. This is before we turn the mics on, where you get on Spotify, iTunes, and all that kind of place, all that kind of stuff. So we're doing the August month in review, where Adam, well, I'll say this when we go on live or whatever. Oh, I could do it now. I looked at the topics. I'm like, oh my God, do we have to talk about menopause again?
So y'all had two. Y'all had two.
Yes.
So now it's going to be 2.5.
Yes.
Okay.
2 2/3.
And now we don't even have Victoria here, so we got like 3 dudes talking about the topic of menopause.
But Victoria was just as clueless about it as a normal guy would.
Did you call it menopause or did you call it manopause?
Yeah, we didn't do your hyphen deal, man. We didn't do your hyphen deal. So I guess I got to turn my phone down. So anyway, this is before we turn the mics on, but it's a good way on the YouTube lives to interact with us, talk with us while we're doing the shows live. On the month in reviews is the last week of the month where we have Adam come and join us. He's been checking out the shows all kind of month long, and Neil comes out behind the curtains, and we just rap a little bit about what we was talking about all month. So that's what we do on the month in reviews. Getting ready to fire up here shortly after Neil's done typing all the comments and prepping the whatevers. Can I talk to you now? Would it be?
Yeah, you're fine. You can talk to me now.
All right. So,
all right, ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right, 3, 2.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes. Welcome and hello. August, we're still in August the 31st. Just barely by the nick of our chins. The August month in review show is what we're doing today with Mr. Adam Cloninger. How are you?
Great.
I'm your host, Chris Gazdick, and you are Neil behind the curtains. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Good day today.
You like coming out of the curtains and chatting with us, or you want to
It'd be more fun if I wasn't producing at the same time. Like, I realized I need to get, like, my kid here just to sit in the, just toggle the camera.
We need to get him, like, a table where he's, like, at the computer and everything that he can just...
Oh, have, like, a
that way it's, like, it's easier.
Laptop.
Maybe Chris and me need to switch seats so it's more right in front of me, and you two can share the couch, maybe?
Does it matter if you're right? I don't understand.
No, I meant, like, we could do, like, 3 separate things, then it'd be harder to, like, switch the camera.
Yeah, now you're just adding more work. Yeah, thanks.
Right.
Sorry, man.
So you just have to talk and produce. Listen, this is the month... Oh, let me do my other stuff. Yes. So this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get insights directly from a therapist and a couple of guys on the month in review, not to delivery of therapy services in any way. Adam, you're going to be happy, man. I took your motivation. The book is being edited.
Good, man. Good.
Yeah. He DW, or not DW. That's the lady that makes everything go at the office. Courtney Donaldson, the editor, got it back to me. So now I've basically got to rewrite the whole thing.
So now I got to go back and listen to January's episode because we talked about
goals, man.
The goals, and I have no idea.
Well, I think it was a couple months after that you wanted me to get it done this year, and I'm like, yeah, I totally.
Yeah, but it was one of your New Year's resolutions you had.
Probably, was it?
I think it was.
We need a.
My problem is I have no idea what mine was, so I have to go back and look at it. That way I can get motivated.
I think yours was good tattoo for this year.
All right.
Yeah, way to go.
You want to show the YouTubes? Well, look at what we got. Give a good picture there.
You got to put it.
But it's all nasty and
you
healing
can
up
do
right
it.
now.
You can do
Just
it.
put it in front of your face.
Now you have to.
It's like nasty and healing. Can you see it?
No, you can't see it.
There you go.
Oh man.
No.
That's better.
There you go. It's very cool.
Tattoo.
Koi fish.
We're getting Chris to get one by the end of the year.
It's not gonna happen. Not into pain. But let me see. So, yeah, this is a book on marriage, guys, that we've been talking about. It's the follow-up to the first book. I did a slow play with it. I really didn't want to bring another book out in the middle of the pandemic, so I've been kind of slow playing this along, taking my time. But I'm in full gear now. We're editing and writing, and so there's going to be a book on marriage out. It'll take a little while still. The publisher's got to do their thing with it, and hopefully they accept it. So
How many words?
Get it published.
How many words did you get?
Oh yeah, about 50 large, man. 50.
Luke just crossed 50K on his book.
He got 50,000 on his book. Okay, that's good. Good young man. That's impressive, man. Neil's little kid is writing a story,
A novel, yeah.
It's a fiction, though, right? A fiction novel. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, he's writing a book on marriage too. My 14-year-old's writing a book on marriage as well. So you got competition.
That would be awesome. I would be super impressed with that.
And it would be fiction because he doesn't know anything about it.
Fictional about marriage.
Are you going to credit?
From a teenager's viewpoint.
Exactly.
He's going to credit your book. Then.
This is the human emotional experience which we do endeavor to figure out together. So let's launch. On the week or month in review we do with Adam Cloninger comes on and he goes, he takes us all the way deep down into a rabbit hole to start us off with some sort of mental health related topic that is in the news, that is in the world or something, not in the news necessarily, right?
Yep.
Researches it, discusses it, and we kick it around. So where are you taking us today, man? Should I be nervous like last time? We needed a disclaimer on the last one.
Well, we need a disclaimer this time too, but it's not anywhere near as bad. The disclaimer this time is, even though I play one on television, I'm not actually a doctor. So,
but you stayed in a Holiday Inn, right?
Yes. Or is that Motel 6? I can't remember.
Holiday Inn Express.
Holiday
Inn Express.
Oh, it has to be an Express?
Yeah, I believe so.
Is there a difference between Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express?
One's faster.
That was the ad. It was for that brand.
I didn't know.
I'm pretty sure. Comment. Let us know if we're right.
Before we get, yes, there you go. Before we go down to the rabbit hole, just so you know as well, we're talking about the review of August, which we did a part 1 and a part 2 on Menopause Normalized. That was the title. And then we did the other side of the hormone change, which is the earlier in life episode. What was it?
241.
241. Your first love, the teen crush. Is it real, true love? So a lot about relationships there with the youngsters. But really, we talked a lot about us older folks and all. But you know what's funny? I was telling you guys before the mics came on. Dude, I'm like, I saw our topics and I was preparing and getting ready and reviewing everything. I'm like, oh my, do we have to talk about menopause again? Three guys talking about menopause. How's that going to go, Adam? You ready for this?
Y'all can just skim over and we'll just spend more time on the other two topics. How about that?
There's only one other topic.
Oh, that's right.
Part 2.
Yeah. So 2/3 of this review will be this.
Menopause.
Man, I should have came up with a bigger, longer
Rabbit hole.
topic for a rabbit hole.
It is a topic that is uncomfortable to talk about seriously, and I owned it on part 1 when I was like, look, man, I did not want to bring this topic up, but I got permission in my mind to do it with a show that was out on the New York Times podcast that I check out sometimes, and they said menopause has a moment, and they really did awesome coverage on this topic. I can't wait until we're reviewing it to say one of the things that, one of the things is a reality, man. This is a statement that I will make, a bold statement about, that we do need a national and worldwide dialogue about this issue. I think that is absolutely 100% true. That's a statement I'll make about
it's going around the world right now.
I'm trying.
You're making an international statement.
I mean, I really am. I'm trying because I think around
for the third time
world,
in last month.
Yeah, we're doing it again. Oh gosh. All right, man. Let's hit the rabbit hole. Where are we going?
Okay, so I want to talk for a few minutes about EG5 or Eris.
Okay.
Y'all familiar with that? Heard the term? Kind of sound familiar?
Like Aries, as in the horoscope Aries?
ERIS. It's technically EG5. It's the new COVID variant we've been seeing a lot about on news outlets. And
I've this is a thing I didn't know. Yeah, so that's the variant that we're talking about is Aries?
Yeah, it's EG5, but they call it Eris for short. I don't even know why it's for short because it's actually longer, but EG5 is what it's called. I call it EG5. I think that's easier to say.
That sounds like a Star Wars robot.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's where my brain goes. I just snorted too.
So anyway, on the EG5,
Yep.
you see a lot of stuff on the news outlets and the social media, and people are saying, don't comply, or mandate does not mean it's by law or what, stuff like that. There's a lot of COVID variants. EG5 is one of the newer ones, and there's some concern by some people, and I want to, in my opinion, again, not a doctor, but in my opinion, I don't think there needs to be as much concern. There's a lot of COVID variants, and about 17% of the U.S. cases are currently EG5. Now, when you take in consideration there's so many different variants, and 17% of them are EG5, that sounds like it's really bad. But
well, that means 80% of them would be the previous other variants.
Yeah,
right?
but there's like a lot of different variants. I mean, there's like a lot.
Okay.
So when you consider how many different variants there is, and then this one is, and then there's this one is 17% of it. It might sound like, oh, this is really bad, but the symptoms are pretty much the same. The tests work, the rapid tests, the ones you have at the medical facilities, they all work. They're thinking that any kind of antivirals that's already exist are probably going to be effective to it. So in my mind, we shouldn't be panicking. But with that in mind, there are going to be people that's going to be panicking. So,
well, I don't know where we're going on this rabbit hole, but I'm going to jump in and say we shouldn't have been panicking in 2020. It's been a while. Like, I was a big advocate trying to talk about the issues of COVID when it was new, with like some real basic concepts. There were 3 of them. What did I come down with? 1, we needed to stay calm and not allow fear to take over. 2, we needed to not be ignorant and allow ourselves to be informed so that we're prudent, so that we can make good decisions. There was like a 3-layer thing that I was thinking about in that regard. But one of them was definitely, like, look, we don't need to be panicked about things that we don't understand. That's where we get into a mental health crisis with
Right.
it. The fear and the panic and the fear mongering kind of as well that kind of gets going on in social media and whatnot. Like, let's be prudent about what's going on and listen to people and have trust for science that's out there. I mean, there's a lot there. I don't know where it is a rabbit hole, man. Where are we going?
No, you were actually covering exactly what I wanted to know, what kind of what people might be thinking and your opinion about not panicking and stuff like that. So you kind of covered it. So that's
the rabbit hole.
That's kind of the rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, I'll let you chime in, Neil. See what you're kind of thinking, really, because I think that there's so many directions that we can go in with it, and you're right, it is coming back on the radar. I'm starting to have people in my clinical practice.
Are they mentioning it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because people are getting sick.
Yeah.
People are getting COVID, and I have a colleague of mine that got COVID probably with this variant, and it's now moved into long COVID.
Well,
and she's having a hard time.
Well, from what I'm reading, even though there's an uptick, the cases are still relatively low. But again, 17% of it, so it sounds like it's more. It spreads easier, but
less intense.
The antivirals are expected to work, so
well, we're at a different age now. We know what COVID is, and we have treatment, for it. But what are you thinking, man?
I think with a lot of the stuff, I think you're gonna have I think there's gonna be a lot of jaded people from the city, like you talked about. Like, everyone's like, don't, we're not gonna comply. And honestly, I think a lot of the mandates and stuff that came through were a little bit over the top. I mean, there was, when you look at the chain of events that happened, you look at the initial outbreak, you look at Italy, which was a catastrophe in itself because they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
That was where a lot of the initial fears were, because doctors were not doing the right course of treatments and caused a lot more problems with early intubation and stuff like that. Like, that was the initial fear. And you talk about the panic and stuff. Once it made it through that and things kind of started figuring out what was going on, and people started realizing, one, for a majority of people, it's not that as big of a problem as they originally led. There was pre-existing conditions that did cause people, but even with the flu or a lot of the other viruses, you had people who had pre-existing conditions or more susceptible to it. But you start realizing, oh, it's not as big of a concern because now we're starting to learn how to fight against it. And I think the biggest thing is because we know how to fight against it, more people have had it. Some people, it's worse than others, but they survive it. It changes the whole idea of like flu nowadays. The flu back in 1908 when the Spanish flu came by, it was a pandemic. Now it's like, oh, got to go get my booster shot, or I got the flu, stay home, vitamin C, zinc, stuff like that.
Exactly
it's a different attitude.
It's exactly like the flu, Neil. I think the biggest mental health component is where, Adam, you triggered my brain to go with is we cannot have fear and panic run our decision making. Like, how many ways in mental health do we have fear-driven behavior that is destructive and bad? So I think that's the highlight with this rabbit hole. But the second subset highlight, though, is really that we need to take this stuff seriously. I mean, I get concerned when people are just like jumping off into an opposite sort of fear, like don't control me, don't tell me what to do, I'm not being compliant, I'm not going to take this seriously. That's a problem too. I'll be very clear about that. That's a problem because we need to have a level of prudence about what we know and what we don't know about this, and a level of mental health component trust in people who study this crap. Like, I don't know the science behind this. People do now. You know, we need
we got a better idea of what's going to happen.
We have a
now.
much better understanding. Yeah. A much better understanding in treatments. You know, the thing that sucks is the downturn in trust that we have in the CDC and our various health organizations. Like, Fauci got destroyed through that whole thing. I don't understand it. There needs to be about 20 Faucis out there talking about what we know and what we don't know, with the ability to say, this is a novel virus. We don't know, man. This is the best we got now, a month after we found this, is this. Well, we're trying our best.
I may have mentioned this earlier. I don't think I did, but it's been in the U.S. since like April. If that helps any. So it's not like
the new variant.
Yeah. So it's not like it's
April, May, June, July, August.
So I mean, it's been a little bit, but
we'll give it a half a year. Probably, maybe we don't know when it got here. We'll say it's been here for half a year. Yeah, I don't think that people are tripping out that there's a new variant. I think people are tripping out that, oh crap, people are still getting sick from COVID.
Yeah. Well. Not only that, there's a lot of people freaking out that I'm not going back to mask. I don't want to do this. Because,
right.
You got to remember, from what I do for a living, I'm in not only a manufacturing, but I'm also in the office setting too. So I have both. So the masks suck for safety glasses, man. I'm telling you, it sucks.
For safety glasses, what do you mean?
Well, it's hard to not have safety glasses fog up. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
So then you're also causing another safety risk. Yes, there's all kinds of things you can do. You can do this and do that to make your safety glasses.
Spit on them.
Yeah, but
I say that to elevate humor will get us out of here. Because when you spit on glasses, it's got to be like
get someone else to spit on them. That's what you should do.
Well, you don't do that. That would be bad.
Yeah, get someone else to spit on them.
Because when you spit on scuba goggles, it doesn't fog up and stuff. So you need to spit on your goggles.
Yeah.
That'll fix that problem.
Yeah. So if it does go, when you first come into the facility you're working, as soon as you come through the door, spit on your glasses.
Yeah, there you go.
Even if it's prescription.
Yep.
Keep them fogging up, and then you'll be much better.
Through therapist's eyes, man. We got COVID solutions, baby.
Spit on other people's safety goggles.
You got problems, we got solutions.
All right, listen, that was a good rabbit hole, Adam, because I think that is, unlike what I believe or dial into, I think that's coming on the radar screen with people's mental health. I just don't want us to get all panicky and fearful again about all this stuff. Menopause. We're not fearful about menopause neither, are we? How do we deal with this? Here's the 3 questions. Do you really know what menopause is? When and how does menopause occur? And how does it affect our lives? And I think those are some questions that we started out with.
Let me answer. No, I don't know, and I don't know.
No, I don't know, and I don't know.
I haven't heard anything about it yet, so.
But you know about it. You have beliefs about it. You've heard of it, I hope, right?
Yeah.
Neil, how do we summarize all of this that we really went into with
both
as it
shows.
relates to both shows and stuff? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
It needs to be normalized. That's the first thing.
Title.
But I think the biggest thing is being aware of the symptoms, which means you have to educate yourself from both sides of both male and female side, because women go through it, and guys are there with them. And so it's not just women on an island amongst themselves dealing with these changes. Their significant other, if it's a guy, they're also dealing with it too because of the interaction. So knowing the symptoms of what could be causing it is going to help you deal with it down there. So that's the biggest thing. And that goes back to me, a synopsis, education, knowing what the heck's going on with their body to know like how to work with it.
Bingo.
That's important.
So when you say normalize, you're talking about be aware that it's normal what happens. Is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, normalize it. Don't make it a big deal. It doesn't have to be like the old school, like, oh my gosh, she's going through menopause, leave her alone. Like, it just needs to be noticed. Like, it is the way that it is. It's women have their stuff that they go through, guys have stuff they go through. It's just a matter of fact.
So we're going to use just one term for both men and women now. It's just going to be called menopause.
No, it's menopause and menopause.
Honestly,
Nah, he said menopause.
Honestly, we probably should, but no, we have andropause.
That's what it is.
Really,
andropause.
it's called.
Okay.
And women have the menopause, which really, honestly, is a
So I'm
lot
more-
of the same thing.
So I'm more familiar with andropause.
Yeah, well, it really is the same thing. I love the new metaphor that I will now forever use with this. You remember the menopause metaphor, Adam? For women, they go into imagine the roller coaster, tick, 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 to the top of the first hill, right?
Right.
And what happens next?
You go down.
Hard.
Yeah.
And fast
Right.
and furious. Boom, you're in it. And that's what happens for women that go into menopause. That average age at age 52 is the medical moment of menopause, which is defined by 12 months without a menstrual cycle, but 7 to 8 years prior to that, right? And I'll tell you a little story of why I learned so much about this, because it affects mental health that I began to see several years ago. And that's a fast and furious 7-8 year dive into like your body being completely different. But men go through same stuff, man. We go up there as well, tick, 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 to the top of the first hill of the ride. And it's a ride for men too. We lose testosterone and all the hormone production as well, starting at about 40. But we lose about 1% of testosterone production per year. That's all we talk about in man world, which is stupid because there's all the other hormones. But what happens after we get to the top, Adam? Tick, 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 tick. For men?
Drop, but I
No, we don't drop.
we drop. Well, okay, well, good. I'm glad you said that because
We don't drop.
when you're talking about roller coasters, what I think of
There's no drop.
is these roller coasters where you go up the top and then it goes around like this and goes down slightly and then it starts dropping.
No,
That's
we take a log ride.
a log ride.
We take a log ride.
Is that a metaphor?
It's a metaphor.
Okay.
Come on, what do you mean? Where you at? It has to be a metaphor. Yeah, we're on a log ride. And it's that
They have a
slow
drop too, though.
And it's a smooth transition.
Right before death.
They do have a drop.
Right at the end.
At the end, and
Yeah.
honestly, I want to submit to you that when men hit about 50, it catches up, and men are kind of like, "What is going on with my body?" Right? Like it has been getting different, very, very slowly.
Why can't I open this jar of pickles anymore?
I mean, something's
Honey.
different.
Honey, can you open this?
Yeah, you lose muscle strength.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's true. You lose a lot of things. Your body changes. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I could find it in my notes quickly enough, but I saw from the NHS in UK. This is a better description and has way more meat to what I saw in this. But for them, men, you get mood swings and loss of muscle mass, reduced ability to exercise, fat redistribution, large belly, or quote unquote man boobs, lack of enthusiasm or energy. You got those?
So how much of that is just the bad mood and stuff is because of all those things?
It is. Hold on, though.
Okay.
Difficulty sleeping and increased tiredness, poor concentration, and short-term memory. How many others, I wonder, because honestly, that's the longest list of something I've ever seen in doing prep for this show this month, where people are talking about male symptoms of andropause. I've never heard a list that long. And if you look at that list, they're beginning to highlight and see that that's the same list that women go through. It's just a lot. It takes us a lot longer to get there, and they get many more. I mean, their list is like 40 strong. So we're starting to really see that. Yeah, this is aging. This is how the body ages. So Neil, I like the way you say it. Like, Can we just normalize this crap and go along with our business to cope with the changes and not demoralize women for going through something that's tough?
Or men.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you have to take the emotions out of it, because especially when you're going through stuff like this, the hormonal changes, the emotions are already out of whack to begin with on both sides of it, and so you have to make it more logical. You have to be like, this is what's going on. You have to understand it. It just takes that extra edge off, Because I mean, I deal with that with my wife, where she'll come downstairs and like she'll warm her and it's like, hey, I'm grumpy today. Okay, and I decide, do I want to poke the bear or not? But
I'm out.
that's a whole
Do
nother
you ever
thing.
do that? Today's the day. I'm gonna get her.
He has.
I do it all the time.
Really?
I
All
live
the
on the
time.
I live on the edge, man.
Yeah,
I don't
you are
think
not
you
wise,
understand.
brother.
It's like a bad idea, man.
You didn't expect that answer, did you, Adam?
Yeah, I live on the edge when it comes to my wife. Like she does not. I don't know. Maybe she appreciates it. I don't know. But
to your point, Neil, you do. We started out with COVID-19. It was a novel virus, which means it's brand new, and we didn't know. We don't know. And when something's happening and we don't know, the fear of the unknown psychologically just takes over. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Now that we know some of things. We don't have to be all freaked out about it as bad. The same thing goes, as you say, Neil, let's just put some knowledge on this. I am amazed at how many women don't really have a very strong understanding of things that go on with menopause specifically. There's just, it's not
I was
talked
hoping
about.
he's going to stop before he said that last couple words. That sentence.
Come on, man. I'm not going to get hate mail from all of the women. Yes, through therapist women know nothing.
Hey, that'd be a great short, wouldn't it?
That'd be terrible.
I'm gonna take that out. That's good. Women know.
Neil, you
per Chris Gazdick,
you
through
cannot use
therapist
that
women
as
know
a
nothing.
short, taking 2 sentences.
We'll put an asterisk. Adam and Neil do not support this message.
Wow.
But no,
Terrible.
I think the interesting
Y'all are being
thing.
abused.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is talking about men. My wife and I were at an optometrist, and we had this older gentleman that was, fixing her glasses because now she has to have readers, which is hilarious. But that's a whole nother conversation. And so,
Have mercy on us, man.
yeah. So she was trying progressive lenses where it has all the different special, and it was making her nauseous. So we went back, talked to them, and the guy's looking at it, and we started talking to him. He goes, "How old do you think I am?" He's like, maybe 50 or something, but he ends up being like 75 or something, some higher number.
Right.
And the thing he brought up is on men, we talked about that slow roller coaster. You look at any celebrity,
Log ride.
right? That log ride, right? But at the end, we talked about that decline, because he was talking about how when he was got to 70, his body size shrunk like half.
Right.
So you're kind of maintaining, and all of a sudden it just, your muscle mass just drops. And you look at actors like Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, for some reason, these manly men, out of the blue, they look great. And all of a sudden they just look a lot more frail, a lot thinner, just out of the blue. Both of them, if you look at the newer movies, it's how are they walking around
That's funny.
still?
That's really interesting that you're pointing that out. That makes a lot of sense.
So, but yeah, I thought, so that kind of equated to the idea that men have that log ride, and then all of a sudden you get that dip right at the end, because, while we might be losing muscle mass at a certain point, it just really drops. We really lose it. So,
And I think really, maybe it is really. I guess we need to study that. We need science on that, honestly, because whether there's a drop like that, that's interesting. I never thought about it as that with men. But at some point, is it a big drop, or do you start being like, holy crap, I'm really different? You start noticing. I feel like there's a noticing to what's been changing. Whereas women, you notice because it's changing so freaking rapidly. I mean, 7 to 8 years seems like a long time, but dude, I'm telling you, that's no time to go through the massive changes that they go into. Let me tell you why I originally came with this idea that identified the clinical issues, and I shared. I think it's a good thing to do on the review show. We're just not going to be able to touch all that we got into in those 2 episodes. It's clear to me right now, being halfway through our review, right? So please definitely check this out, because we need a national and worldwide dialogue about the issue of menopause. That's my bold statement. But I say that because I have really come to be very aware of the massive impact on mental health that this really creates. Through a case several years ago now that I talked about in episode 1 or part 1 of this, that this lady, Adam, I don't know if you heard this story, or we've ever talked about it, but Do you remember that part in the story where I told this? I'm just curious if you recall that.
Yeah,
or not.
it's not ringing a bell yet, but you haven't really said much yet. So I
Perfect.
don't know.
Yeah. So I want you to hear your reaction
Okay.
to this then, because you may not have heard this. This woman came in a mandatory referral that I was working with, right? When that means somebody at work. Usually that's a dirty drug screen or whatever. I know your company does that a lot,
Yeah.
so you know how that works. But this was just because she was asking weird questions, and they were concerned about her. That's the reason why they mandatorily
Like weird
referred
questions.
her.
Like, can you give an example?
Why are people so worried about me? Why are people watching me? I don't understand why I'm the center of everyone's attention, and everyone's in a small office being like, "You're not." I don't. It was weird questions.
Because she's getting a little paranoid.
She was getting a little bit edgy.
Okay.
Interesting use of the word paranoid because, yes, as I got to meet with her and see what was going on, she began to describe, like, because I got rapport with her after a few sessions. No, she was full on psychotic. She was walking into restaurants and public places thinking they were all talking about her, and she's being tracked on the internet and
I
being
know
HIV
somebody like
positive.
this.
Like, holy crap, what's that?
I know somebody like this.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Well, it was really dramatic, and I really started to wonder, like, what's the puzzle here? I don't understand what's going on, and I really take it very seriously when I meet with somebody. Like, I want to diagnose, I want to figure out, and I couldn't figure it out. There was no bipolar, no depression. The only thing that I came across was anxiety, a real clinical experience with anxiety. But what was odd is that was only about a year prior. She was in her 40s. And that's not the way anxiety presents. I mean, it's not a new thing at that point in life very often. If you have clinical level anxieties, you have that, through your life. So now I'm like, well, why would she have this level of anxiety that's there and have psychotic experiences? And whatever it was that clued me in, I worked out with her a whole symptoms list of menopause. And I brought out a list, and I started talking to her. Have you experienced this? And she's like, yeah. And this? Yeah. And this?
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
This,
Yep.
and
Yep.
this, and this. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. She's got all kinds of changes that have happened.
So basically, it's not. She didn't have a mental issue. She had a
No
physical
mental health
issue that was
issue.
causing her
Yes.
to think something.
100%. We identified this, and I literally Googled, Dr. Google, can you be psychotic with mental? And the answer was, yeah, people have experienced that. We've given women, Haldol in psychiatric hospitals, which is a very serious and strong medication for antipsychotics, because of menopause. Misdiagnosed, misunderstood what's going on. And we talked for about 2-3 weeks, and she was like, man, I don't understand how I was thinking those things I was thinking. I'm so glad we figured this out.
So that helped her like understand, and she wasn't as
That was it.
again. I'm gonna say paranoid
She wasn't psychotic. She wasn't paranoid. She was barely anxious
because she understood it better.
because she understood it.
Hey, I think that
awesome.
unknown causes a lot of, you start thinking of, you go down your own rabbit hole in your brain, like, what is wrong with me? What's going on? Because these things are now heightened. Because I know my wife, being, she's 41, she's looking at things, and she saw like YouTube, Instagram thing about someone talking about all the symptoms of perimenopause.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just going through that, it kind of like helped her, like, oh, I think that's probably what's going on with me. And that's why I said it's so important to normalize and educate to know what's going on, because then you don't
freak out.
Yeah, you don't feel crazy because you have something where you have this weird thing that you keep going into your head and thinking like, what's going on? Like, knowing how your senses are heightened, knowing how your emotions are changing, knowing all these different places allows you to understand and be able to be like, oh, okay, that's not really the problem. I can address it and I can look at it. And that's what you did for your patient, is like you educated her to help her understand what's going on with her body. And the fact that she's a woman that age and had no clue goes back to the problem we're running into,
Which is?
no one knows, and they're uneducated. It needs to be normalized.
And honestly, it drives me nuts that the medical profession, I feel like, I'm going to make another bold statement. I don't want to piss any doctors off and gynecologists and stuff. I hope and feel and do believe that it's gotten better. But up until recent times, medical profession has done women a disservice because they've gone in with symptom sets of things they're really concerned about. And they're like, what's going on with me? And they're like, well, I don't know. Here's some creams. Well, is it menopause? Oh, no, honey. It's too early for that. That's not it. And they have that and many more stuff going on which makes them feel crazy.
Well, then too, that there's probably a lot of it going on where they're saying, "Oh, it's just menopause."
What do you mean?
Well, you were saying that, oh, it's too early for that, but all these things going wrong with this, and they'll say, "Oh, I got this going on." Oh, that's just menopause. Don't worry about that. But not addressing the health issue. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I don't think that was happening a lot. I'm not tracking with you yet because I feel like it was much more like, no, it's not menopause. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. We need to treat that. I mean, we're talking about like hair falling out, thinning of the nails, dryness of skin, and really everywhere. Menstrual cycle coming a little bit early, a little bit late. I mean, there's like 40 different things, and someone will go into a medical doctor and be like, well, what's going on with me? Why is this the case? And they're like, well, I don't really know. I mean, you want birth control to regulate your cycles? I'm like, no, not really. Well, then it's fine. Is it menopause? No, it's not that. And they feel crazy.
But I do think there is a downplaying, and maybe it's not. Oh,
Minimizing,
it's menopause. Yeah, maybe they're not saying it's menopause. Maybe it's it's just your hormones are out of whack, or like you. But I think it also goes back to what you said before. There's so many symptoms, and it goes on for so long that it slowly becomes problems, or it slowly becomes aware. And so because it's such a slow buildup, they don't actually account for it as being associated symptoms of perimenopause and stuff like that. And so I do think it is minimized a lot. And I think it's also just, they don't put two and two together. It's like, your hormones are just out of whack this month and you'll be fine next month. You know?
Yeah. Is that what you meant, Adam?
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think I'm curious what she found on YouTube. So she kind of saw somebody talking about this on YouTube, because that's awesome.
Yeah, it was one of those shorts she ran into, and she started. I'm like, and then she like starts seeing the symptoms. It's like, okay, it makes more sense. Like I said, it's educating and normalizing the whole situation. So, but honestly, you look at the history of medical for women. You have two things that kind of go against them. Is one, the medical profession for so long was just men. And society in general was women just kind of did what they needed to do and just kept quiet about things. If they had problems, they just kept quiet. They weren't supposed to talk or bring up their problems, from women or from men's side. So really, I think we talked about like the 60s and the 70s is kind of really, this is really early on understanding.
I was surprised by that. And that came from the New York Times podcast. It did a really good job of diving into some of the history with this. Like, people started talking about this a while ago with hormone replacement therapy, and then that got demonized because of cancer concerns. But then we figured out that it isn't that big of a cancer. That was overblown and overly feared. But
some cancers is you really can't take anything.
Oh no, I get that. Well,
Yeah.
if you get cancer for another reason, I know that hormone. We try to take hormones down,
right,
so that the hormones feed the cancer that you're having. But that's not saying that hormone replacement therapy caused cancer.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it was like a percentage, and a percentage was basically related to hormone. So like when you break down, it was such a small like triggering effect
to make up numbers, but make the point. You have like hormone replacement therapy that's taken to treat these things has about a 3% likelihood of causing cancer for that woman. And then they did studies where they found that there's a 17% increase or a 25% increase. Ooh, and that's scary. Like, I don't want a quarter of an increased chance. But that's not what the numbers said. It was a quarter of 3%. So that makes it 4.5% in increased chance.
So now I think the way of thinking is, I think if you already have some type of cancer that's not threatening, it could make it increase.
100%. Yeah. We wouldn't want to do that, but it needs to be an individual decision between your doctor and the woman. So we do now recognize that HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is a good option. But that's a hell of a story that I will never forget that in my career now, because it just brought in my mind elevating the mental health ramifications, when this stage of life is gotten into. I mean, the marital ramifications are profound. The ramifications on anxiety and depression, long-term experience before that, is profound. Even the parenting realities when you begin dealing with your teenagers and you're going through this. I mean, God, right? Neil's laughing. You got to say why. I mean,
I have a 17-year-old that we're going through the idea of, next stage in life, and my wife is very roller coaster of emotions right now, from excited but yet terrified, happy but sad, and
Just go to her and say, "It's just menopause. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal." No, I'm just kidding. I'm
every
kidding.
woman
I'm
is
kidding.
pissed off.
I'm
right now.
kidding. I'm joking.
And then she'll say, "Yes, it is," as she swings at me.
Yeah, it cuts you.
But she, once again, my wife is very logical as far as this, logical as far as knowing something's
Has she been pretty
changing.
grounded and logical?
Oh
with it?
yeah, I mean, now in the heat of the moments, because of emotions and change, and I think one thing I do want to talk about is in the next episode, you talk about how menopause doesn't create problems; it just magnifies them.
There you go. Take my thunder.
I
That's
think-
one of our things we need to do.
That's something you have to understand through this. Is she's still my wife, and she still has her, but sometimes it does elevate our conversations. It does elevate situations. It does,
right.
It's just the way things are. And that's just, you have to be, as you talked about it, my kids have to understand that. I have 2 teenage boys that oh no, mom's going crazy all of a sudden. Okay, just write it out kind of situation. And so they're dealing with it too. But once again, my wife is very grounded in the fact,
I just want to highlight it because I think you didn't say it as boldly. The statement is that menopause does not create any new problems, and we mistakenly feel that it is the problem. No, it's not the problem. There's nothing of the problem with it. It's nothing. It's but a medical reality of change. So it doesn't create any new problems. It just magnifies whatever's going on times a factor of 10 or whatever. It makes mental health and marriage problems or parenting challenges, blended families with step parenting and the stresses there. It doesn't create any problems with step parenting, but man, when you start going through this, it makes the problems that are there magnified.
Or magnify the joy in messing with your wife.
oh, it does. It does dramatically. The rise I get out of that is just so much fun.
My wife's probably not going to listen, but on the off chance that she is, I am going to say I am not brave enough to go there at all. Do not do that. That is poorly suggested.
Just so everybody knows, it was mentioned before the show. That's the only reason I said some people
It was
get joy.
not mentioned before.
It was in the show. No,
He is
but
lying. Again, I'm being destroyed over here.
Okay.
That's not cool. All right, really. Final part of this that I wanted to point out that we really didn't get to go on the show a lot about, which is unfortunate, because this could be a positive thing. Listen to my little list, right? First of all, any woman hysterically will tell you it is wonderful. Victoria was awesome about this, wasn't she?
yeah.
You know where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
Take it. Where am I going?
Well, the idea that there's no more period, there's no hormonal swings, there's no monthly, there's no bleeding, there's
It's
no
gotta be fantastic.
yeah.
She spent a year being pregnant and then post-pregnancy, and then when it came back, she was talking about
My wife went through
damn
that. She did
Hell
the
yeah.
IUD. She didn't have the stuff, and
Terrible.
so and then you get back on birth control, or you have to fight with it. Yeah, it's not
It's got to
fun.
be horrible. I'm so glad I'm a dude. So this goes away. Also, change is good, right? Scary. We don't know what this is, but change can be good. It brings new opportunities and new understandings. There's so much empowerment in accepting our age as we get older and what our bodies now are. There's no more nonsense. We can get down to life and having maturity with an increased life experience. Having the value of being older and the wisdom that comes with that. Just to name a few, this is a transition of change that causes shame and fear and all sorts of horrible, tough times with mental health if we don't know what's going on. But by far it does not have to be a bad, terrifying, and we definitely don't need to throw our women under the bus. You men out there, listen and learn about what's going on so you don't join the world in marginalizing what they're experiencing. So, I hope this is an uplifting, empowering reality to normalize what happens in this life change process. Menopause. Normalized. Shall we move on?
I was gonna say, if a man's having issues with his woman being on menopause, look at yourself, because there's probably something that you have been avoiding that's led to the situation. So if you have it, don't just put it all on her. But I think the other thing you want, which goes back to a previous episode, shame with medical conditions. You should not be ashamed with this whole situation, and is very powerful to think about, because sometimes women might be ashamed going through this because they don't know what's going on, or they don't want to deal with it, or they don't want to address it, and then that leads to further problems. So go back to whatever episode it was, like 238 or 237 or something like that.
About 3 or 4 before that. You're right.
Yeah, so go check that out too, because that's important, because it is natural. It is the way that we are with everything, and you just have to. It is a good thing. It's that next phase in their life.
Yeah, it's just terrible when people feel the guilt and the shame for getting more irritable than what they know they should be getting, but they're feeling that way. It's like, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Well, the reason why likely you're feeling the way that you're feeling is because you just had a baby and you're having postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I just switched the topic from menopause to postpartum depression, but it's really, really got a similar reality, right?
All hormonal changes.
Your hormones are changing rapidly when you're pregnant, and then when you're no longer pregnant, we know that we don't shame women for that. Why would we shame women in their 40s?
Actually, we do more than we should, probably, with postpartum.
That's true. Thank you for correcting me. You go a little further with that, because you're right.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of women who go through it and they don't ask for help. My wife kind of went through it with our second kid, and it's one of those things. Women don't ask for help. Guys don't step up or really pay attention to what's going on, and you feel like as a mother, you're supposed to be this Wonder Woman that can do everything. And so when you go through the things where you go through postpartum, your hormones are all out of whack because you just had a baby. Now your hormones are bottoming out, and you don't feel like it, but you still have to be there for your kid. You're not getting sleep because the kid, there's all these things. And there's a lot of stuff that, women don't ask for help, or they don't look at really what's going on, and you get stuck in these cycles. Like I said, we went through that. Finally, my wife got some Ambien, got some good sleep on, a couple of nights of good sleep, and it kind of changed her back to the way it was. You just don't understand what's going on. And so
Perfect.
Postpartum needs to be normalized just like menopause needs, because it is a hormonal change. And you need to address it so you can actually learn how to handle it or take care of it or treat it.
And I might say, menopause, andropause, if you will, let's call it.
I am so glad you're saying that, because I was sitting thinking the whole time, we keep saying we want them. It happens to men too, and we've spent most of the show talking about women.
Right.
I guess I have to rely on
thank
YouTube
you.
being you guys older. Are you guys going through menopause?
I mean,
andropause?
sure am. I told Victoria, I showed her after the show my spot on my leg that has no hair on it. John was like, I have no hair on my legs at all. This is a dude thing too.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to go to work and be a jerk and say, I'm sorry, it's just menopause.
It's just menopause.
Andropause.
Yeah, you got to say andro, I guess.
Okay, andropause.
I'll tell you what, once my leg hair goes away, I know I have a real problem because I got very hairy legs. So
I do too, man. But like right on my ankle, there's like a whole 2-inch spot where there is none. It's the craziest thing ever. I'll show you after show.
I still like the term menopause.
Menopause. I do too.
I still like
We got to
that.
get much better names for this, by the way. Like menopause is one moment, 12 months after your last cycle. And then we have premenopause and postmenopause, like perimenopause,
yeah.
premenopause. It's stupid. Can we not have cooler names for this? Maybe that'll help our societies get along better with this and normalize it.
Well,
Yeah.
just call it menopause and be men and women, or
Well,
whatever you may identify.
But I'm
as.
saying the decade description, we got to come up with something much cooler. You people out there that are good with memes, create some memes and rename this shit so we can have some better, some better fun.
and tag the show in it so we get more.
Definitely
more
tag the
traffic.
show in it. All right, let's go on before we don't have any time for episode 241. Your first love, the teenage crush. Is it true or real love? So,
True love.
what is a teenage crush is the question. 2, what is true love? And third question that we thought about for this was, how do you or did you handle all the intense emotions that emerge from these close attachments? And really, we spent a lot of time discussing. So, Adam, I'm going to ask you, and Neil, you had a lot of thoughts on this show. I remember, I think. We were talking about it, and you were chuckling in the background, wanting to know when we was talking about soulmate. Do you remember that? I think this is the show that I'm like, oh, we definitely have to talk about this, because you said something or did something. Do you remember?
I probably did, because I think you were like anti soulmate. You were like,
I think
I'm
that
totally
was
anti-soulmate.
last review, because I remember something about that.
No, it was since then. It was.
Yeah, we talked about
Y'all
soulmates.
said something about last review, because you made a comment about soulmate thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No,
unless it was on the back porch.
I
that
think
night.
I think you was listening to the show and you thought
No.
it was
It could have been a night on the back porch when we were talking.
Oh, it probably was. Yeah, I was
Could've
just
been out.
hanging out with
Could
you.
have been out. Yeah. Could've
Yeah,
been.
dang it, I poisoned it. That's right. We did talk about that on your deck. Anyway, I'm curious, Adam, what says you about
Yes.
soulmates?
Yes, but I thought that's not what I thought you were going to ask me. I thought you were going to ask me about is the true love, the young true love, is it really true love? I was going to say yes.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, a big summary point that I want to really highlight with this show of 241. Man, we marginalize teenage affection, and it bothers me. It always has. Victoria really joined with me because she works with kids a lot. I mean, we use these words teenage crush and just say, oh, you're just it's puppy love. That's horrible. I don't understand that.
Well, it's at that point in their life that it is just as important because it's based on their experience.
Yes.
It's just as difficult.
It's real feelings. The only thing that's different is the first time that they felt romantically attached and lovingly towards a dating partner. That felt
and I
that way.
think it's easier to get over too.
Oh boy, I totally disagree with that. No, I do not agree with that.
Maybe I shouldn't say it like that. Maybe I should say it takes less time to get over. Just as difficult, but less time to get over.
Maybe less time. I don't know, but I mean, I think that the reality with that is I have found that when people are dealing with a breakup of any kind at any point in time, that is the point at which they tend to be most decompensated. Really, is the clinical term, but that means they're struggling the most.
Right.
And if you're a teenager, or if you're in midlife, or if you're an elderly person, it doesn't matter. That is a horrible, horrible loss that really people are struggling with the most. So,
I think time has a lot to do with it too. I mean, if somebody's a teen crush, I'll say teen crush if you want to say that, but I didn't like that term. But if they've seen somebody for a month, okay, yeah,
Well,
it's horrible. Yeah, a
yeah,
week they're
we're-
going to be over it. Now, somebody you're seeing for years, yes, it's going to take.
yeah,
more
I
time.
see your point.
Yeah.
You know, middle school dating for
Yeah.
a week is different.
Yeah.
This is not what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're not talking about a high schooler who's dating 5 people this month.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff. That's impulsivity. That's the kid's not really having the emotions. They're not really having much maturity. You're right. This does designate as and it's awesome, Adam, because I never thought about qualifying it that way. But we're really talking about a longer term committed relationship. Call it 3-4 months or longer, where you're really connected in dating, maybe upwards of a half a year to a year.
Yeah.
Like this has got to be like your senior year experience, or all of 9th grade.
Yeah, I think you have true love versus true infatuation, kind of like that differences kind of thing. Because, I mean, my youngest has been dating his girlfriend for like a year and a half now, which is surprising. And then my oldest, he finally got into seemed like pseudo healthy relationship until they kind of, had a struggle, a lover's quarrel, whatever you want to call it. And it hurt him for a little bit because they had been dating for a month or so, but now they're back together now that they've actually matured. But it still goes back to, at that age, it really, to me, it depends on the person and how committed they get to that idea of that true love. Because I feel like there's certain people that when they dive in, they're all in, and so that's real.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
but some people are like,
But that's the same thing as adults.
yeah, adults are exactly
Totally
the same
same
way.
as an adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get ugly with each other.
Oh boy.
Let's get into this, man. Both of y'all knuckleheads seem to believe that the soulmate reality thing is a real thing. Why on earth would you believe that nonsense? Can I say it that rudely to you? Let's go. What do you got?
Man, we want to get in this really.
Okay, so I
Yes.
think there's a qualifier here.
Okay, what's the qualifier?
There's a difference between finding your soulmate and the idea that there's only one person for you. I think
John went to
that's
that,
the
didn't he?
qualification, because
Right. Yeah.
my wife and I talked about this afterwards. There's like romantic soulmates. Like my wife and I, when we met, like there was a connection. There's a lot of stuff. There's a bigger thing to it where, and we got married. We got engaged like 3 months after we met and got married 3 months later. Like, and we've been married this will be 20 years this December.
Congratulations.
So
Shane. Yeah.
yeah.
2
But
decades.
But then you also have friends. I mean, you have guys that you would go and you'd be like, him and I just click. We get along real well. That's to me kind of like you can have a friend soulmate just like you can have a romantic soulmate, because some people you bond with, you click with. There's more to a relationship. It's whether it's the vibe you give off, the chemicals, whatever it is, there's more to it in how you connect to certain people. Just like there's people you can go to and you can't stand being in the same room with them.
Yeah, it's funny. John really layered into that. I think when we were talking, I don't think I previously realized there's, as many variations in the ways to think about what is and what isn't a soulmate. I mean, to me, it's very. It's very specific. I mean, it's you're the one for me, I'm the one for you, and we're the only ones for each other, and we have found our souls connecting, and that's it. And we go off into the sunset and live life together all harmoniously. Like, the whole thing is nonsense to me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't abide by it. And I think it really creates unrealistic expectations out there about how we're going to find our person.
Well, I think the problem is the definition of what you think a soulmate is and what somebody else thinks a soulmate is.
Evidently, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I really, previous to John saying that, I did not realize that there were that many, differences in the way to think about this. That was surprising to me.
Well, look at me. I don't believe in souls, so.
Well, there you go.
Wait, hang on.
Yeah, I don't believe in souls. Yeah, I don't.
Really?
Yeah, it's fabrication of. Nah.
You are such a logical thinker. All right, that's another rabbit hole.
Memory is in your brain. When you die, your memory goes.
Oh.
End of story. If you went to heaven or hell or wherever, you wouldn't remember anybody because your brain's dead. End of discussion.
But so the other thing I think about too, and I'm just gonna leave that.
We'll leave that alone.
Subject change.
I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. Maybe next month we'll talk about that. But I think the idea of what a soulmate is, I think is very important in your relationship. If you have that connection with someone and you think that they're your soulmate, you're going to be more willing to try harder with the idea that this is my soulmate. But if you lose that person, you have to shift your thought process. I can find someone else. So it's a really weird double-edged sword that is very powerful in the relationship. But once you lose that relationship, the idea that was my only person is very depressing.
Right.
And so you have to kind of think about that from because you were married before and now you found Julie, right?
Yep.
So therefore, you've kind of gone through.
Yeah,
that
she's perfect. We're perfect together.
Yeah, exactly.
What's funny?
And I'll use the term. I think she's my soulmate, even though I don't really believe in souls. So it goes to how what you define a soulmate is.
You and her are a really good fit.
Yeah,
you guys are a great fit for each other. Yeah. And like I said, to me, a lot of it is a lot of intangibles. It's not always look. It's not like there's something about when I hang out with my wife. I enjoy hanging out with my wife. Like I would rather spend time with her than a lot of other people. So it's just the way that it is, and that's my relationship with her. Like,
okay, so I just Googled it to see, what are we talking
We're
about?
going to Webster's dictionary.
Soulmate, a person ideally suited to another as a close friend or romantic partner. Okay, that's a little more broad than I would have thought about a
sounds
definition.
Better to me.
Yeah, it's a good definition. I don't have any problem with that because I think what you're talking about, Neil, is along those lines. However, even with this definition that we can all kind of agree on, I'm going to get nitpicky and say, ideally, I don't know what that means. I don't think there's an ideal person.
Say it again,
out there.
one more time.
The definition they have here from wherever, dictionary.com, a person ideally suited to another as a close friend or romantic partner.
Well, I think that's kind of weird because there's a lot of people that you might not think you would be friends with, but you click. Like, I think that's a really weird thing because I'm thinking about my wife has a new friend she's found and they really gel. And outside of their weird, twisted sense of humor, they're really nothing alike, but they love hanging out together. It's one of those weird things.
So how can you not have something that's ideal? So, I mean, there's got to be a best of everything. Looks like there's a worst of everything. So ideal would be the best case scenario.
To me, ideal kind of takes away a soulmate is like this connection to me. So you're making ideal as now you're trying to add logic to a relationship. And sometimes in a lot of relationships, there's no logic to it, I don't think. So the fact that they added that term of ideal, I'm with you. That's kind of a weird term to throw in there.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if you look up ideal, satisfying one's concentration of what is perfect, most suitable.
Most suitable.
Well, yeah.
Most suitable.
Is that ideal? Most
yes,
suitable
most
or
suitable.
perfect? There's nobody out there that you're going to find when you're dealing with a
Most
teenage
ideal.
crush
Most
that is
ideal.
perfect. It's not going to happen. Soulmates don't exist. Nobody's perfect. That's the way I look
So
at it.
would you say there's not someone that's most ideal for you?
My wife's perfect for me.
No, I don't because it takes so much work. It takes so much purposeful effort, particularly over the course of a long-term relationship. Particularly, okay. Well,
So don't even just
wait a minute.
Just,
Hold on a minute.
Just have anybody then.
Hold on a minute. Get this reality. When you identify somebody that you meet, greet, and date and commit to, and they're ideal, what do we say about that idyllic reality when they're fundamentally different? How can they be ideal for you when they go through things in life and become fundamentally different? And one of the fundamental differences that we have, one of the biggest life changes before and after life events that we go through, is becoming a parent. You are a 100% different person. So if you were ideal before that, then you can't be ideal after. It's hogwash.
But if you change as they change, who's to say that you're not changing in the same fit? Because if my wife's a parent, I'm a parent at the same time. So we're both changing. Who's to say we're not changing to continuously fit with each other?
Especially if you're ideal for each other.
Exactly.
Somebody's going to change differently, I tell you. One person might change in this way, the other person changes in this way. It's all,
and maybe at that time that's the way it needs to be.
Man.
But it's a constant moving pattern. It's almost like a soulmate is almost like that jar of water and oil you see. That as it shifts, each one is changing, but it still fills up the same void. It still fills
what
up
I
the
hear
same
Chris
container.
saying is ideal for a while, but not forever.
100%. 100%. That right? I mean, and let me pull this together, with reviewing the teenage crush and is that true love and what we talk about with soulmate.
True love.
Like true love. What is that meme or skit? It's a Saturday night thing. Isn't it?
I think it was Princess Bride. I think.
Ah, yes.
True
Princess Bride.
Love.
Yeah, John was all
Was it
over
on
that
Princess
too when we
Bride?
spoke.
It was one of those movies. It might have been. I think it was Princess Bride when they talk about it. The preacher at the end talks about when they get
The
married.
only thing I remember is the sword thing and Andre the Giant being on. That's all I remember.
I only remember Under the Giant. I'm with you. That's about
Great
my
movie.
level. But here's the thing: is we idealize and romanticize that. We have some sort of sense of the romantic way that we're supposed to engage our wife or engage our significant other, and the reality of it is that just doesn't exist. There are so many variations in the way that we meet, greet, date, commit, mate, and live together. And there's so much variation in that process over the years that you have to be very purposeful in maintaining it.
So why even look then? Why not just grab anybody?
Well, when we were less refined as a race, we were very animalistic about it and reprocreated the species. I suppose when Homo sapiens were young, we would just get a new sex partner every 2, 3, 4 years because that's what our hormones designed us to do. But we have learned a little bit more stability about culture and society that we go with monogamy and long-term relationships. Some would make the argument that that's unnatural and we shouldn't do that, or we should have polygamy. One guy and 10 wives is polygamy, right? Like there are other models, but none of it is ideal, and none of it needs to be romanticized and mystified in some sort of way that when you have problems in year 3 of your marriage, that's not normal. There's a problem here. That is normal.
I don't think he likes the term ideal. That's what I'm.
Remember
starting.
when you give them a new idea about what ideal is?
Yeah.
I have a lot of ideas. I'm from West Virginia.
I'm sure.
Yes.
But I don't think there's really any problem with romanticizing your partner, even at the longer side of it.
No, I agree. Romanticizing the challenge that relationships and long-term status represent.
I think the challenge is, though, keep it fun. Keep it fresh. I think it's enjoyable.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
As someone who likes to poke the bear when she's in a weird mood.
I know. Is that keeping it real? Holy cow.
It's keeping it fresh.
Poor woman.
Gotta get my
Poor
thrill
lady.
somewhere.
All right, what else we do with this? I think we've done a pretty good job in what did we talk about? We talked a lot about social media with that show. I don't think we're going to get here. We've talked about social media impacts before, but Oh my gosh, the social media. Adam, you could speak to that with the dating. We did the dating show with social apps. I think that was with you, wasn't it?
Dating.
Dating show with social apps. Maybe it was with Craig actually.
I'd have been with Craig at the time.
I think it was with Craig at the time,
Yeah,
a
I
long
don't
time ago.
remember
Yeah, yeah. Social media has dramatically impacted the way that we date.
I think you may have
Not well.
mentioned that, but I don't remember a whole show about it.
We
Somebody
talked about it.
I
then, yeah.
remember you saying back on the show with me and Craig did blah 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 blah, something along
That
the
we-
lines.
yeah, we were talking about
I
that.
think you said something along the lines of some show.
To you on a show.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing when we look at this one, it talks about it. I think don't minimize their feelings. I think that was a big part of this because as we get older, we've seen the ups and downs. We're kind of jaded. We're kind of like, oh, we know it'll pass. But when you have a kid, you're in the moment. Like it is a big deal to them, and you shouldn't downplay their emotions or downplay the situation. You need to be there for your kids if they're struggling with it, and
help them cope.
Yeah, exactly. Help them cope with it, being like, oh yeah, this does suck. I've been through there and it sucks. It's you're not alone through this. But I think that you get a lot of older curmudgeony parents that forgot what it was like when they did have their first true love and they did have their first true breakup and the pain it does cause. There was a video I saw recently where the guy talked about how there's 3 different loves. There's the first one, which is fresh and new, hard to get over. But then as you get older and you go through the other things of love, the more long. It was an interesting video. I just watched it, so don't. But yeah, so it's the idea of like if you lost Lisa, like that pain would be a lot different than a girlfriend back in college.
Right.
But it's still a loss and a pain from the first one just as much as the second one. It's just a different way. It's a different depth.
Especially
but
because
it's
of different life experiences. The total sum of their life experiences are different.
But I think that's the important part is when the kids are going through this and they have those first true loves and they break up and they're eating that pint of ice cream like you see, like there's real pain, there's real emotions. It's not watered down. It's almost worse because we talked about it. This is their first experiences in it, and those first experiences are definitely more heightened than third or fourth or fifth time.
I think the takeaway is that yes, they'll get over it faster, but it's to them it's just as real and just as painful.
Sometimes suicidal.
Yes,
is the reality of it. Yeah, no, I like the way that Adam, you and I kind of kicked that around in the beginning of this. That it may not take as long because it hasn't been as long, but it is as deep and real. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think the idea that I would add to highlight in the summary is that we need to manage the feelings that go along with that. Just like you do when you're an adult, you manage the feelings that you have in an emotional realm and close attachment. It's the same things with there. As a matter of fact, shameless plug, we talked about the book that I'm writing on marriage. I mean, ironically, that would help teenagers to read. I didn't write it for a teenage audience, but I can imagine them getting a lot of benefit out of that, particularly when they have experienced or are experiencing teenage dating.
Do you have a title yet?
Probably similar to the first.
Okay.
Through a therapist's eyes, rediscovering your marriage and becoming your best union
spouse.
I'm just wondering if you need to say relationship instead of marriage or something along the line. Just think about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, marriage is a Western construct, blah, blah, blah. But
that's true. I guess we want to speak around the world. I don't know. Is marriage a Western construct?
I don't know. I'm just saying. But it goes back to your idea of that, not everyone follows the idea of marriage, but yet there's a lot of people who are committed that maybe aren't actually officially married. So
well,
maybe commitment would be the good term.
And honestly, a lot of people around the world operate from the culture of having arranged marriages. They call them marriages, but arranged marriages where your spouse is picked for you. Those are very successful forms of union. Because you have to do a lot of the same things that you do if you picked your own spouse, which is highlighted in a book that I'm writing.
The work.
The
work, you're saying.
It's highlighted in the work, right? Yeah. So, all right, good stuff, man. I think it was a good month. We'll be moving along to football season. I said we should do a month in review at the end of September about football. We got a big WVU game this weekend, and I know Neil, you're trying for the Moonshine Stein that's over there on my desk.
Yeah.
See that?
I'll get it back.
You're gonna get it back. I did get it from you. It'd be
Yes.
funny if we went back and forth. It got
The rest of the league's gonna start getting really suspicious. Like,
You're
what's
right.
going on here?
Those guys on the podcast are doing something funny. Adam, thanks for hanging out with us again. Neil, we'll send you
Thanks
back
for
behind
having
the
me.
curtains. Everyone, we are moving out of the summer. I appreciate you coming along for the ride. These end of month reviews are fun to look at all that we've done together, because we do endeavor to figure this out together. So we will look for you at the end of September and see what we get into. Take care, stay well, and we'll see you later.